Hello, we're reporting live here from the International Schiller-Instituts conference in Berlin. And with me now I have Sergej Pulinets, who works at the Space Research Institute of the Russian Academy of Sciences. And he gave us a presentation about turbulences. And if you look at the world today, it's very obvious that you have a big turmoil, not just in politics, but also in general. People confused, where is this leading? You have a euro crisis, financial crisis, you have a war threat. But what I would like to start with is, what are your thoughts about this conference? Why do you think it's important to have such meetings?
These meetings are important for, sometimes we need to stop and think about what is happening in our world. And this conference, it is a perfect example that people start to think strategically what we need to do to improve our life, what we need to do to save our planet from many kind of crises which we observe all over the world. And for me, it was very interesting and productive from the point of view of new thinking. So it is probably only organization in the world who looks at the world as a whole, and not only in the world but our world in the galactic, because these questions were also discussed during the conference, and about the space exploration, outer space exploration, moving of mankind to the other planets. So it was very interesting, especially for me as a space scientist.
Yes, and you yourself have made some contributions, not only in this conference, but at previous ones, where you talked about earthquake precursors. And sometimes this is being seen as a bit esoteric, but I think it's a good example of that people just don't know how much there is yet to know. People have this idea, oh, we have already discovered everything. Man knows everything, so the only thing there's yet to do is iPhone 2, 3, and 4, and there's really nothing fundamental yet to discover. But the work you're involved in with earthquake precursors is very interesting, because it's a concrete example of how the galactic circumstances have a direct effect on the weather of our Earth. And you even are provocatively saying that we could possibly actually have a forewarning, days, if maybe even weeks ahead of an earthquake. How does that work?
Okay, it's nothing esoteric. Okay, let's look on the human body. When you become sick, what you feel? You feel a rise of temperature, yes? If you can have, if you have problems with liver, you will see the change of color of your eyes, color of your skin. So then you go to the doctors, you make analysis of your blood, yes, you make tomography. So you investigate your body. And before to make some operations, go with surgery, you make analysis from outside. And let's look at our planet as a human body. If some crisis is preparing, so there are some manifestation outside, in atmosphere, and we are studying the physical processes which provoke some anomalies which could be registered by the satellites. And we see the same thing, that the temperature of the area of earthquake preparation is increasing. And you can register it from the satellite. And satellite give you better view than the local measurements, because the distribution of these anomalies is like many points. And with the local measurements, you cannot catch sometimes the exact point where this anomaly is. But from the satellite, you see the large area, and you see that something is building in this area. So
we also see this with animals who are acting strangely, and the radon that comes out of the ground. There's many factors that you can watch.
Yes, you can watch with a satellite, And these anomalies, especially radon, changes the atmospheric electricity properties of the conductivity of the air, which immediately reacts in the ionosphere, in our plasma environment over the Earth. And we can register these anomalies also in the ionosphere. So it is simply scientific analysis, collecting the data, developing the physical mechanisms, and then you can apply this knowledge for making the predictions.
In principle, it's really not much different from what we do now with weather forecasts, because we are able now as a human society to forecast extreme weather like extreme cold or tornadoes by a few days. And that is a life and death question. If we don't have the satellites, and they are being taken down by the Obama administration, for example, then you won't have the ability and people will die because the thing will just hit them without notice. And so maybe we can talk a few more time about this IGMASS project, because that is a future project where you could go in the next area. So what is this IGMASS project and how does it work?
Okay, before we start with IGMASS project, I can want to go back to the weather prediction. So earthquake prediction is very similar to the weather prediction, because both of them are kind of the chaotic process. And mathematics and scientific methods are very similar. And it is, would be very good if we use the methods of the weather prediction to the earthquake prediction. So now IGMASS. IGMASS, it is a Russian initiative to organize a complex system to observe or to monitor different kinds of disasters, and then using the results of the monitoring make something like earthquake prediction. It is one part of the project. Second one, it is so-called telemedicine. Sometimes people may be in dangerous situation in remote areas. And satellite technology can help you to make analysis what happens with this man in a remote way, transmitting the data to the doctors, which make diagnosis and make recommendation what to do. And the third part of the project, it is a threat from outside. You know, the asteroids and comets which may come to our planet. We have historically registered many cases of such danger. But it is impossible to do of basis of one nation. So this initiative, it is to unite the nations which launch different types of satellites, but everybody manage this satellite especially by this country. But if you make some international cooperation and share the data and make some common database, we may essentially improve the situation with the monitoring of the natural disasters, and we will observe the level of disasters is increasing, and especially in the highly habitated areas, which produces, like, for example, after the Indonesia tsunami, a lot of people die in many countries. But if we were able to make a warning at least few hours before it was possible, we were able to save a lot of lives.
That's, I think, a very important point, because people today, they think, why should we go to space? Why do we spend so much money on science? But it really brings out the best in people, and as you just said, one nation alone cannot do it. You have to work together just to get the amount of capacity and scientists together, also discussion about what are the questions, what are the challenges. Different countries have different specialities. We heard from the Arctic development that the countries in Scandinavia are very good in mining, because that's what they do with oil and stuff. So if you combine this, we can really bring out what's human about us. And then the question becomes, well, where do we actually want to go in 50 years? So you have any thoughts on that?
Okay, and we now come to some level, all the bureaucratic work is done. There are some agreements on the level of the United Nations and so on, so on. We have the low basis for this project. Now we need the next step to the real space project which should be realized and to start the practical applications. And the development of technologies facilitates this task because we can make now the cheaper satellites, the smaller satellites with the microelectronics. And even on the level of the universities, we have many examples of students producing the satellites with very good equipment. And even here, during this morning session, we heard about development of students of the refueling the rockets on the orbit.
Yeah, a 20-year-old scientist from France just told us how to get to the moon.
Yes. So we have better perspective to those. Now the IGMASS project is transformed a little bit because the head of this project now is a former chief of the Russian Space Agency. He has more power, more ties to make this project more powerful. And physically it is situated in the Russian space system. It is a huge enterprise, one of the first enterprises who was involved in the production of the first Russian satellites, now involved in the production of GLONASS system and so on. So has a lot of experiences in the space development, and I hope we will move forward with this project.
Yeah, good. So then what we really need to do is to make the way free for this kind of project. It should be announced not just as a national policy, but an international policy. As you said, we need to get the bureaucracy out of the way or just get it cleared quickly. We need to get some people out of the way, like Obama, I think, just to get that started. And then we can have a bright future. So thank you.